Hi everyone, my name is Suzanne and I'm a Chinese metaphysics master in Hong Kong. Today we're going to look at a Bazi chart and have a little bit of an analysis of whether we can actually see if a woman may have issues with getting pregnant or whether there's a heightened risk of a miscarriage or a difficult pregnancy. Now, I need you to understand that even if you see any of these signs in a Bazi chart for a female, this is absolutely not a sign that the female cannot be pregnant or should not get pregnant, right? So there are just some indicators that that you may have to be a little bit more careful when getting pregnant, especially in the first trimester. So it's not a sign that having children is bad for you, or that you're going to die in childbirth, or that anything bad is going to happen. These are just indicators. And in order to to make a real judgment as to how the pregnancy is going, we would have to analyze the entire chart, right? So I'm just giving you some indicators that may show that you may have to be a little bit more careful. And obviously, this only goes for female charts. We're not really looking at the male chart for this. This is just for female charts. Now, in the old days, of course, these sort of indicators were very serious, because in the old days there was no modern medicine or technology, and usually if it got to the point where you had to have a cesarean birth, the mother was in grave danger. None of these scenarios are really critical anymore in modern times, right? We've got all the modern medicine, we've got all the support, the medical support. So really, do not get too scared. This is just sort of like a sign that you may have to be a little bit more careful. That's it. You can have children. Yeah, it's not a problem at all. I just need to put that out there at the beginning, because lots of people get scared when they see these things in a chart. So there are certain indicators, certain scenarios that can happen where we know that, okay, we need to be a little bit more careful. So I'm just giving you the 5 most common scenarios. There are others, and as I mentioned, in order to really determine what's actually going on, whether this is really an issue for a female, we would have to analyze the entire chart in relation to the year itself. So the first indicator that you may have to be a little bit careful when getting pregnant is if your day master, as a female, right? If your day master is sitting on a 7 killings and meets with indirect resource. Yeah, this is this scenario here. So this is your day master here, as you know. And if you are sitting on a 7 killings, so if your main T is a 7 killings, we're not concerned with the sub T. So if the main T is a 7 killings, and then you meet with indirect resource. So what does that mean? So that one scenario could be that you have in the hour pillar an indirect resource. The hour pillar represents children. So therefore, seeing a 7 killings in the main T, not sub T, main T of the day pillar, and also an indirect resource in the hour stem, that could be an indicator that there may be a higher risk of a miscarriage if you are not careful, right? Now, let's say you don't have an indirect resource here, but you are planning on getting pregnant, and the year you're wanting to get pregnant in is an indirect resource year for you, right? Then again, this would be this would fulfill the criteria of meeting with indirect resource. So as a woman, if you have a 7 killings in your main T, it's not ideal to get pregnant in a year where the annual stem, annual pillar here is indirect resource. Yeah. Forget about the hidden stem. That is not important here when it meets with indirect resource, right? So that is what we need to be careful of. So that is one sort of indicator. Right. Now, let me just go back to my pen here. All right. So this is the first criteria, or this is one scenario. The next scenario, in which case it could be a little bit difficult to deliver a baby, um, could be if the chart itself has a lot of indirect resource. So indirect resource, what I mean by a lot of indirect resource, I would say two or more. So let's say you have indirect resource in the hour pillar. We always take this as the reference point because the hour pillar is your creation, yeah, your children. So if you have an indirect resource in the hour pillar, and then maybe you've got an indirect resource in the month pillar somewhere in the hidden stems, and another one here in the year, that is too much. Yeah, when it as it pertains to having children, because that could indicate that you may have difficulty in delivery. Now, again, this is not a life-threatening situation nowadays. It could just mean that your contractions are going to last quite a long time, right? Takes a long time to deliver the baby. Or it could be that you may need a cesarean that you may have to do a cesarean birth rather than a natural birth, right? So again, it doesn't mean that you cannot have children or that things will go really bad during delivery. It may just not be the smoothest one, right? Now, in a scenario like this, if you're also happening to go through a year annual where the annual pillar is an indirect resource to you, that's definitely too much indirect resource. And so you kind of need to prepare yourself for the delivery. We're not all that concerned with the luck pillar itself because that is a 10-year time frame. So we're focusing more on the annual pillar with this. Now, the next scenario that could happen and that could indicate that that there may be you may go through challenging labor is if you have as a woman again, so we're not looking at male charts here. If you have as a woman, the year stem is a hurting officer. And then you have a Rob Wealth here in the hour stem. Yeah. So this in and of itself is actually not a problem. However, if you go through a annual pillar that has an indirect resource, or in this case, a luck pillar that has indirect resource, then you may have a challenging labor. Again, difficulty in delivery, right? So in and of itself, this scenario, hurting officer in the year and Rob Wealth in the hour, not that much of a problem. Unless you deliver the baby during an annual pillar that has an indirect resource, or to a lesser degree during a luck pillar that has indirect resource in the stems, right? Then it can be a little bit of an issue. Now, the fourth scenario that could indicate that there may be a higher risk of complications or miscarriage is if you have the rooster and the rabbit in your chart, and they have to appear in the day and the hour pillar. Yeah, so if you have the rooster here in the day branch, sorry, my writing is very bad here on the screen, and in the hour branch you have the rabbit, then that may not be so ideal, right? Or it may just indicate that there could be a possibility of miscarriage and pregnancy complication. Again, we're talking about a possibility. Usually these things would happen in the first trimester. So as long as you're very, very careful in your first trimester, you don't have to worry too much. Also, when we see these things in a chart, we often mitigate with feng shui. Yeah, so if you know both disciplines, then you stand a much higher chance to mitigate. So this is one scenario. And then the last scenario, let me just show you this on an actual chart here. The last scenario happens if, let's say, you have the elegant seal in your hour pillar as an auxiliary star, again, as a female, and or the hour pillar is in death and emptiness. So here you actually have both. So you have the elegant seal here as the auxiliary star, and our pill is also in death and emptiness. So that is also an indicator that there may be difficulties getting pregnant, right? You may have to go through IV treatment, for example, IVF, sorry, IVF to get pregnant. Again, it doesn't mean you cannot get pregnant, but it may just be a little bit more difficult. It can also happen if you only have the elegant seal star there, or only the direct the death and emptiness in the hour pillar, right? So either or both. In this case, there you can see both. Now, if you have several of these scenarios happening for you in your Bazi chart, then it just becomes increasingly more difficult. Again, not impossible to get pregnant. It's not, it doesn't prohibit you from getting pregnant, but you need to be aware of these signs. That is all that is needed. Yeah, you just need to be a little bit more careful. All right. So again, if someone is having difficulties, you can check for these indicators. But before you give them any bad news, please make sure that you actually look at the entirety of the chart to see what is actually going on. And then you can give them the big picture. And please never scare a client, right? Because there are solutions for this, obviously. And with modern medicine, a lot can be done, right? So hopefully this helps you guys in your analysis of a Bazi chart. Now, please, if you do have any questions, any comments, you can put them in the comment section below. If you actually want to study Chinese metaphysics in a more structured approach, you can also go to my e-learning platform, lifemasterystudies.com. The link is in the description to the video. And please share this video and subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys soon. Take care.